Quick one today, a quick instructional tie-in step-by-step of how to do the D&D pike fly bait fish. Basically a brush fly, fibre fly, very popular. I use it in saltwater, freshwater. It's equally as good anywhere, real easy to tie. So here we go. So about halfway between the point and the barb. It's a nice little thread base. First thing I'm going to put on, and this is optional, I don't do this on all of my fibre flies, but it does work quite well, is a little bit of flash, which comes included in the kit. So I'll just tape the ends. And I'm going to probably tie that in about 60-40, 60 out the back. Nice and tight. Fold the front over. Cinch it down. So there you go. A bit of flash in the tail of the fly. Then you start off basically with the fibres. So this is the beauty of this fly. It's nice and simple. So I've cut off pre-cut lengths of the white and the grey, which the fibres are made out of. So you get these in the kit, a grey and a white. I pre-cut mine out so it's nice and quick, but you can just cut it off as you do. So you have one full length. And again, I put that on 60-40-ish with the longest length hanging out the back. Let's go over the hook. Forward it over, bit down, turn it upside down. And if you don't have a rotary vise, it's not the end of the world. You can tie them in situ, or you can also just kind of twist the vise over. Same again, 60-40. Now I like to split these into a V to ground the hook eye. Cinch it down nice and tight. A few wraps, pull. Fold it back again. Pull all the fibres through. A few securing wraps. Because they're going to be tiny for pike, I always tend to put a blob of super glue after every step. Just a dab, just secures it from the teeth. I'll move forward a little bit. Same again. This time, I'm going to go 50-50 with a stack, grey on top, white underneath. Fold it over. Same again. Split it if you want to go around the hook bend. And the beauty of this fly is, as you'll see in a bit, is you basically give it a haircut at the end to tidy it all up. So it can be right up through this process. There's actually not much going on with it. It can be nice and scruffy. It doesn't have to be mega beautiful, because we're going to give it a haircut later on. Again, another dab. Wind it forward again. Now we have a couple lengths that are 3/4, so I've cut 3/4 off and left the quarter. It's just the same process over and over again. Turn it over. The beauty of these, and this is why I like them, especially fishing for saltwater fish. You can make them really nice and bulky. Now you can make them as sparse or as bulky as you like, simply by just how much material you put on. And like I say, you don't need to worry about looking a mess, because that's all going to be rectified in a bit. Forward again. I don't know, sort of 5-7 mil each time I do that step. Grey on top. Screw it down, flip it over, white on the bottom. Now if you wanted to make this nice and bulky like a mullet, or have a lot of mass to it, you can. There's no right or wrong way, and that's the beauty with these kits. These are very simple to tie, and again, completely up to you how you feel you should tie them. There's no real right or wrong, as long as you follow these kind of basic steps. Stack, fold it over and kind of spread it round, cinch it down. Now these are actually the quarter ends that I had left over from the previous. Remember, a bit of glue. Now I'm going to tie this one fairly chunky, because I'm going to use this as a bit of both a bass and a pike fly. This is the perfect kind of dace roachy impersonation. Again, you can tie them however you feel you want to tie them. The more you tie, the better. Kind of, I know it sounds silly, but the more you tie, the better you get at it. You get a feel for how the fly is turning out. So that's the quarters. So I remember I told you it was full length, 3/4 length, and I kept the front quarters. Then the quarters are now tied on, and that's like the back of the head. Now what I have now is 4 tiny little pieces. Again, grey and white. Now what I'm going to do with that now is that's how I'm going to build the actual head of the fly. Now this now can get really untidy, because it's not as you'll see, it's quite bushy, and it's got a nice, kind of already a nice profile. We're going to tidy that up. So same again. Now you can, if you wanted to, you could add a red bit of felt tip pen here to give it some gills, or you could even put in some red dubbing in there. I quite often do that, but you don't have to. That's a step that's completely up to the individual. If they want to add those extra bits, they can. You can literally leave it as it is, and it will still look great. And as you can see, there's not real any. You don't have to be a pro tyer to get these sort of flies dialed in. They are nice and easy. Which is why it's in the kit. That we wanted something that you could tie without having loads of experience. Now these can be done in any colour you like. Literally, if you want them in chartreuse and pink. If you want them in all black, they actually work really well in all black. But for the purpose of our kits, just to get people started, we went with a traditional baitfish, which is obviously most of us, especially in the UK, is grey and white. So we're literally finishing this up now, and then these are all still these short little stacks. And as you'll see in a minute, I'm going to rough it up. You just follow this pattern. You can't really go wrong, as long as you remember that most of it grays on top. Now actually, I did have one more stack each to tie on, but I'm actually not going to. I'm actually quite happy with that. So what we'll do now is I'll just put a bit of glue on the thread to secure the head. Quick whip finish. I always get it 2, so 1. 2. As you can see, that's pretty much the fly tied. So what I'm going to do now is a step that I find, and you can do this however you wish, but I find a basic comb that you'd get in any sort of cheap shop, and I take it out of the vise, hold it on the hook, and I put it on my lap. You're not going to be able to see this bit, but I'll hold it up once I've done it, and I just give it a comb out, and what this does is fans out all the fibres, and what you're going to see now is this nice big fluffy profile. So now the next step is the scissors. So we're now going to give it a haircut, and this is where now you can determine now the profile that you want, and you literally, for me, is cut it into the shape that you prefer. So I get my scissors, and I tend to put my scissors up to the bottom of the hook. I tend to cut that forward. As you can see, that's tidying it up nicely. Flip it over, and I want to copy that same kind of line. Pulling the bits off as it comes. And I like that a bit skinnier, so I'm going to take a bit more off. And again, as I said earlier, the more you do this, the more you kind of can judge how little, how much to take off. I'm literally just going by eye. I don't really have a set method of this. It's purely down to what you think, how it looks. And as you can see that already, that's looking much more neater. So we'll leave the tail like that for a minute. So we'll flop it over, and now we'll create the head of the fly. Again, I tend to get the hook against the eye of the hook. Sorry, the scissors against the eye of the hook. Snip that back. I tend to cut a little bit just underneath the hook, so it just exposes a little bit of the hook. And you want to give this now the sort of profile that you want. If you want it skinny and narrow, you take lots of material out of the body. If you want it nice and chunky like a mullet, more of a round profile, you just cut it to how you feel. There's no, with this step here, there's no right or wrong. And so that already is now a much neater profile. Take a bit more out by the hook. I'm happy with that. I'd happily fish that as it is. It's got a bit of flash in the tail, which is obviously opaque, so when it's wet wool, that will show through really, really nice. So I think I'm happy with the cutting of that shape now. As you can see, that's now a really nice bait fish. We'll pop it back in the vise. And now we'll glue the eyes on. So you see the eyes that you get included in the pack. I'll stick them on my hand. And I'll just blob a bit of glue on the back of each eye. The best type of glue for this is like a gel type glue rather than a liquid glue. Flip it around the other side. Now what I do is just look on the front of the fly. You'll see where they are kind of central, and I just kind of pinch them in a bit. And that is, in essence, the fly. And what I'll do is I'll take some stills of it as well to go on. Now another option you can do just to kind of give it a bit more contrast, as I like to get a big felt tip pen. And just a little bit, for front of the head, a little bit through. It just gives it a bit more contrast. You just tickle the fibres. Just enough to kind of give it a bit of counter shading. And there you go. One DP fibre baitfish from the D&D Pike kit. Can be used for pike, bass, anything that eats another fish. And hopefully that just shows you how simple that little fly can be. Cheers.